That's something awesome that I want to talk to y'all about. First thing I want to go over is one of my favorite April baits. You can go look at my last video to check and see what all 5 of my favorite April baits are. But I'm going to show you basically how I rigged 2 of mine right here. The first one's the Fluke. Everybody probably has already fished a Fluke. I got a couple of different ways that I like to rig it up. The different ways that I like to fish it as well.
Yo, before we go any further, make sure you're subscribing to the channel. We're almost at 50 subscribers. We're hitting it on this video for sure. At 100 subscribers, I'm thinking about doing a giveaway. So make sure we're hitting that subscribe button. Make sure you're also liking the video. And let me know what your favorite color of Fluke to throw is in the comments below. Thank you. Have a great day. Enjoy the video.
You know, if I have a Magnum Fluke, I'm going to throw it on a bait caster. But since I'm throwing one of the smaller normal size Flukes, I've got my Enigma spinning rod here. It is a 7.2 medium action. That medium action is definitely going to give the Fluke the ability to work whenever I am working it through the water there. And it's going to help me cast it as well. And I've got yellow, I believe it's K9 braid, K9 fishing line braid. 12 pound connected to a 10 pound red label Seaguar leader. I always like going with the red label Seaguar, depending on the weight. It doesn't really matter to me for the Fluke, but I like going the red label Seaguar for my leaders. It's just a great line overall. It's pretty expensive, and that's why I like using that for my leaders, because I don't have to use too much of it. But basically, setup's kind of like this. You've got your Fluke here. I've got the Guggen Squad Fluke, their version of it. I forgot what they call it, but it's got a really long tail, really good action on it. One interesting thing about the Guggen Squad Fluke is that you will see that little slit there right in the middle of the back for the hook, and we'll see what that looks like later. Typically, what I'll do with my Flukes is I'll rig them backwards, so they'll actually sit in the water like this, belly up. That way, whenever you go to set the hook, it's in that open area there. And with this Guggen Fluke, it actually has that slit there for the hook itself. So I always like throwing the Guggen Flukes. And we're gonna just put that on just a normal worm hook there. I've got, I believe this is a 4/0 worm hook. And basically that's all you need. No weights for this one. No anything like that. For the knot, I usually tie a polymer knot on most of my lures. You know, if I was, I'll be honest, if I was on tour, I'd probably care a little more about like what knot I tied and all that, what would be best for different baits. But for me, the easiest and quickest knot to tie is this polymer knot. Most people already know how to tie it. You just double the line through, make a little circle, come back through, pull it out around the hook, and you just cinch that tie. Key tip on this one, or on tying the polymer, one, you want to let your knot, like, you know, every knot that you do, but whenever you pull this, pull the tag in almost until it's all the way down to the bottom, and then I like to grab my main line and then cinch it up with the main line there. That way you don't burn any of the main line, and it gets a good cinch on the knot itself. So I'm gonna go ahead and bite this off. Dennis, look away please. There we go. Leave a pretty good tag in. That's what I prefer to do. Some people like to cut it off right at the knot, but let's say that knot wasn't a perfect knot that you just tied. That gives you a little bit of grace with the fish to get it in before that knot's completely gone. So with this, you're gonna rig it just like you would like a Cinco, finesse worm, anything that you would rig with a normal worm hook. You're gonna go in through the head, out through the bottom. So you got like that. Then you're going to turn the bait on its belly, pull it all the way through. Now, one thing with the Fluke, If you want it to go deeper in the water, you're going to leave the head of the fluke right here before the eye of the hook. If you want it to go on top of the water and basically be like a top water, like shad flipping out of the water, you'll go above that, put it where it's going to come out of the line, and that's going to keep your bait on top of the water. But for tomorrow, early April, I am going to keep that bait low unless I see where, you know, a bunch of bass are flipping bait up, chasing pretty good. Then I'll move that up there. And then just like normal, you're going to run that hook up, get it exposed here at the top. And since it does have that little slit there in the top, you're just going to snag your hook back down in there. And there you go. That is the Guggen Fluke rigged perfectly and ready to go on the 7.2 medium Enigma fish spinning rod here. So I'm going to be throwing this on a spinning rod, letting it sink, working it, and hopefully getting some good hook sets. The only thing that might worry me is with the hook, it comes out about right there. We've got about an extra 3.5 inches. I know that's super big, hanging out of the back of that there. So it's the only thing. I might have some short strokes, and if I do, I'll just downsize my fluke to just a normal Zoom Super Fluke for tomorrow. But for right now, I'm going to leave it as that, just because that fluke's going to add a little weight, and I like the way it works, and I like the way you can rig it up. So that's just my preference.
All right, so looking here, I'm gonna show y'all a little something that happened on Saturday. Unfortunately, we didn't catch a lot of fish. I don't have many fluke catches here, but I kind of want to go over a little sequence. And this is how using a fluke can kind of clue you in on how the fish are acting for the day, how they're feeling, how they're feeding. So you'll see me throwing this out, and I'm working it, I would say about a medium retrieve here. I'm obviously not acting like it's a fish just on top of the water, but you know, I'm working it pretty quickly back. So at maximum, it's probably like a foot under the surface level, and I have been doing this for probably about 10 minutes at this point. And this kind of helped me clue in on where I need to keep my fluke depth-wise while I'm fishing it, because it is weightless. So you'll see here in a second, I do get distracted by something. We were talking about like the grass line and putting some stuff out, and right here is where it happens. I had one on right there after I let it fall for like five or 6 seconds while I was distracted. And a lot of times with fluke fishing, you know, they'll hit it on the fall. But what that kind of clued me into was, one, the fish aren't as active as they were. Two, you know, the fish, I should be working the fluke with how the fish are reacting to it. So I should be letting that fluke, you know, fall for a while, then work it, let it fall for a while, then work it back. And that's just one of the things that you pick up on as you fish the fluke. So kind of a cool little thing to show y'all exactly, you know, how you can use a fluke to figure out how the fish are reacting that day.